Well, as the sun goes down, the speeds go up. It's almost time to get underway for this shootout for the fastest time and the best possible grid position for tomorrow's race. Let's get on with it. It's qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Alright, so here we are back in action in F1 in Bahrain for our first race of the season. Coming around this corner quite well. See the low fuel marker as we're running as low fuel as possible. Coming across the line for the first time this season, 131.350. Original P4, but we are going to lose that position more than likely. And it was expected, but it's good enough to get us into Q2. Coming around the corner in Q2, we're placed next to Gasly because neither of us have set a time yet. Getting to the RS line once again, see if we can improve 131 flat, just by a thousandth of a second, I believe it is. Provisional P4, good enough to get us into final qualifying, which is very surprising, which leads me that I forgot that the AI doesn't use their ERS during qualifying, so this qualifying is a little bit of a fib, but no improvement there at the end. We saw our provisional time as a 130.6.
Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow. Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round one of this year's Formula One World Championship. We go racing today around the 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday and he'll start from pole position. And the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Perez, Johnson, Oscar Piastri, Russell, Stroll, Leclerc, Albon, Norris, Tsunoda, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Joe, Sargent, Bottas, Ricciardo, Hamilton, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. Now, Ant, as much as I like testing, and I do love testing, and I've really enjoyed the build-up here and all the speculation, I really want to see some action. And finally today, we get some proper action on the track.
You're going to definitely see action, Crofty. Everyone's G'd up for this one. They've done the testing, like you say. The drivers will be revving inside, heart rates going, trying to burst out their chest at this moment. With that anticipation, who's got the speed? We're going to learn now, once and for all.
Alright, securing a good starting position is excellent, but remember, there's an entire race ahead. We understand you've had some time to familiarize yourself with the track, but conditions won't always be the same. Remember to be wary of the other drivers around you during the race, and let's get to it.
Right, here we go then. The formation lap gets underway as the drivers prepare themselves for the first race of a brand new Formula One season. Each driver will be hoping to start this season on a high note. So as all the cars reform the grids, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
Alright, and as we are pulling up to the grid for the start of this race, you see the liveries up close and personal of the Venturi Studios Season Up preview. If you guys didn't watch the preview episode a few days ago or the preseason episode, please make sure to go check those out. Get a little bit of insight on those. Starting in P5 on the third row, 5 red lights are on, and we are off to a slow start. You see the Red Bull of Perez moving up ahead against Alonso. That's Piastri on the right side, and Russell and Stroll getting a position. So we're already back into P8, so we didn't have that great of a start here for the start of the season. Now we're going to be side by side with Albon. A little bit of tire scrubbing there out of turn 3 into turn 4. And we're not the only ones who are side by side. A lot of the teams are side by side. Coming up to turn 4, trying not to push Albon over the curb too much, trying to give him as much space as possible. He's going to go ahead and give way here. Coming down the hill, you can see him in the mirrors. Still trying to make a move as we're coming up to this left-hander or right-hander before the left-hander hairpin. And currently sitting P8, 8/10 is the gap between myself and Russell. And you guys could see coming through the start of Sector 2, we are really starting to struggle controlling this car. It's way different than qualifying, way different than practice for controlling the car. But we have to get used to it as Albon looks to try to make a move on the inside. Not quite, he's still tailing behind us as Russell is starting to pull away, and you guys could see the audio quality. I still have to look at improving that, and we will look into the settings, see what settings we need to improve on to minimize the amount of this stuttering, which we will get to in the next race, hopefully, or between now and the next race, as we wrap up our first lap. That's Verstappen, Sainz, Perez for our top 3, Alonso, Piastri, Stroll, Russell, myself, Albon, and Norris for our top 10. And Albon, with DRS, is going to be able to make a move on the inside down the main straight. We're going to be pushing him to the inside to force his hand and see what we can do, but he's able to hold the inside line against us and take P8, pushing us back to P9 with Lando Norris right on our tail. So Lando Norris, you see in the mirror there on the right side, trying to make a move, and we're going to give him that space over the curb on the outside, side by side through turn 4 and 5. Coming down through Sector 2, and yet again, another driver who gives way into that right-hander, and we're not giving up. So we're holding on to P9 as of right now. We're only 3 laps in, and our battle has shifted between myself and Albon to myself and Norris. So now we're defending against Norris, and I did want to let you guys know that we are, I changed the ERS to auto, because I didn't want to worry about it too much, because there was a time at the beginning of the race where I had no battery life to use, and yes, that was my fault because I'm using it too much, but I decided to change it to automatic, where it stays on medium, to kind of even out the odds between myself and the AI. But yeah, so sitting on P9 still, McLaren of Lando Norris there behind us, as we're still looking to try and catch up to Albon, but he's already 2 seconds ahead here as we end lap 3 on the lap 4. There's Lando Norris moving on the inside yet again with DRS and ERS, and yeah, so we're giving Norris the right of way pretty much, and we're going to use the tow and DRS on him to try to stay within the top 10. As we're only 4 laps into the race, and we've already dropped to the end of the top 10. We were started in 5th, where Piastri is currently, and we're already back in P10. So we did good in qualifying with that ERS, and we're not doing so well in the race. So we'll have to definitely work on that, as we're now to the end of lap 4. Leclerc behind, looking to make a move, 2/10 behind. He has DRS. He's gonna make a move on the inside. We see Norris ahead. But as we're coming around the corner, no yellow flag signs. That's a Ferrari over the curb, and that's Piastri spun. And I believe that is Russell, and I don't know who else is tied in with that. We'll have to take a look at this replay. On board with Piastri, as they're behind, I believe, Alonso, actually, coming around turn 1. Yeah, there's a Red Bull. And Alonso, there's a spin, putting too much power down. Then Aston Martin, and I believe that's the other Mercedes back there.
All right. right. Safety car is out. You will be coming in ahead of Gasly for hard tires.
And we have our team communication there. A couple graphics that I worked on between F2 and F1, which I hope to show for all of the teams eventually during the season. So we're currently sitting P7, Gasly behind in P8, Sargent up to P9 with that incident. You see both Hasses are back there. Stroll, Hamilton are back there out of the points. And everybody is going to be coming into the pits, which means there's going to be a lot of traffic. As we're coming in behind Norris, we're going to have to wait and see where we come out because of the traffic. And we're going to have, I believe that's Williams ahead of us. So, that's Albon coming in ahead. That's Sargent, who's blocking our way. We are done with our pit stop, going to the hard tires. That is Sargent blocking our way out. So we're back in P16 currently. We get out ahead of Leclerc. And this race doesn't really look like really any good for us right now, as there's Piastri you saw coming into the pits, and that's going to be a full safety car.
Well, Martin, the 2024 season has kicked off here in Bahrain, and surprisingly, an early safety car has shuffled the grid. We witnessed a spin from Piastri that entangled both Stroll and Russell in the fray. What are your thoughts on that incident?
It seems it was simply a case of Piastri applying too much power. The drivers are well aware of the complexity of the first few corners at this circuit, and overzealousness can be costly, as evidenced by Piastri now at the back of the grid following the initial round of pit stops. Hulkenberg is at the front of the grid but faces a 10-second penalty for speeding under the safety car. He will have to pit to serve this penalty after the safety car period ends. This significantly diminishes his chances of finishing in the points, as the safety car period has altered the strategies of all teams, especially given the limited number of tyre sets remaining for the race.
The safety car has certainly shuffled the pack, as you mentioned. You might not have noticed, but Verstappen was beginning to distance himself from Sainz before Piastri's spin. This prevents Red Bull from breaking away from the rest of the grid for the time being. But there's still plenty of racing ahead, and that means anything is possible. We've observed Ferrari, McLaren, and even Aston Martin have closed in on Red Bull throughout pre-season testing and practice. I'm confident this will lead to an unpredictable season this year. Additionally, we will delve into details about Alpine's rookie driver later in the race with some of our other team members who are trackside.
It's the end of lap 8 now, coming on to lap 9 as the safety car is coming back into the pits. We're settling into P12 after those pit stops behind Albon. Our teammate Gasly behind Sargent back in P17 as we're coming to our race restart on the hard tires. Majority of the grid is on hard tires, but the front runners are still on their tires from before the safety car. So we're over time going to be gaining a lot of positions as we make our mistake on the corner, giving too much space between myself and Albon. You see 7/10 is already the gap, as we now have to defend against Leclerc and the Ferrari behind. And yeah, so the new tires, new hard tires, and then the plan is to go to a second stop later on onto soft tires, which I hope are not used, but we'll have to wait and see as the time comes. Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Verstappen our top 3, Sainz, Alonso, Perez, Norris, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Stroll for our top 10. As Albon is in the way of our chance to getting into the points for the end of this race, as we're on lap 9, so 20 laps to go after this lap, practically. And we're still trying to stay within tow of Alexander Albon. They're in P11, and if you guys haven't noticed already in the race, the glowing of the other cars, I'm not sure if that's a livery issue or if that's a graphics settings issue, but like I said earlier, we're gonna have to go through and make a change. As we can see Logan Sargent, first DNF of the season, there in the background near the steward waving the yellow flag. Very unfortunate for the Williams team, but we still have a lot of fight to go on as we're trying to get as close as we can to Albon, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be coming into turn 1 with a late dive bomb on the inside, and that puts us right there side by side with Albon coming out of turn 3 coming out of turn 2 and 3, and about 8 tenths is the gap on Stroll in the Aston Martin. So we are 1 position away from getting the points, and we know at this point that everybody else is going to be coming in for at least 1 more stop, unless they are running on 1 stop. So there's the glowing I was talking about earlier. Lap 12, the end of lap 12 into lap 13, and the first of our pit stops from the people up front who haven't gone into the pits. So Magnussen coming into the pits, leaving Hulkenberg P5. We're side by side with Albon still on the inside, and they give way as we come through on the racing line. So we're still trying to close that gap on Stroll. Sonoda up there in P8, Hamilton P7 has a few cars ahead of us. And yeah, so far throughout this race, I'm really liking the Haas, I'm really liking the Aston Martin. The Ferrari looks really good too. I've already said my input about the mod in the preview. I really like it. I really like the Alpine that we're driving in this first race. So we have some more drivers coming in. That's going to be the Haas and Hulkenberg. You guys remember the Haas's, one of the Haas's have a penalty to serve, which means we are in the points, back up into P9 behind Stroll, and that's Sonoda ahead still. Albon there in P10, as our teammate Gasly is still back there in P15. So we have a lot of race to go. Lap 14, the end of lap 14 now. On to lap 15 as we're going to try and see what we can do on Lance Stroll. We are 6 tenths out. See Hamilton coming in, and I believe that's Sainz in behind as well, or ahead. I'm not sure if they both did or not, but you see all the position changes there. It was Hamilton, Zhou, Sainz, and I believe Leclerc. I'm not entirely sure. But that is Stroll and Tsunoda ahead, Russell behind in P8 here on lap 15. And that's going to change here on the start of lap 16. So a lap later, P7 behind Stroll and Tsunoda. And we're going to look to make a move. A similar move that we've seen before, a dive bomb on the inside of Stroll this time. Coming out side by side through turn 2. And we were very aggressive like we were last season in Abu Dhabi against Stroll, making him take the pylon out. And we're up into P6 right now. Lap 16 and 29, and we're projected to come into the pits on lap 20 for a set of soft tires. So we're trying to stay within tow of Sonoda for some decent pace. We have Verstappen 7.5 seconds ahead of Perez, Alonso P3, Norris, Sonoda, myself, Stroll, Russell, Piastri, and Gasly. So our teammate Gasly is up into P10, so we're right now 2 people into the points as it stands. But we are looking to defend against Lance Stroll, who's going to try to make a move here on the inside, and he does. We miss our braking point. Stroll moves up in P6, and we are still fighting. 4 laps to go until we come into the pits, and we are already starting to feel the condition of these hard tires. You see that snap there as we ride the curb, and we're in the toe of Stroll, trying to make a move again. We're going to make a move on the outside, see what we can do here, pushing him really hard over that curve. You can see him in the mirror, and they have better pace and speed, but we're going to get DRS because we were within a second of our we were behind Stroll at the point of the DRS line, so technically we got the DRS. So currently holding on to P6 behind Sonoda ahead of Stroll. This fight's going to continue for a few laps, but not without a fight. Stroll 3 tenths back behind us, and they're going to have an easy chance to go against us as they're looking to close that gap. So you see less than 3 tenths. Sonoda coming into the pits, Alonso and Norris as well, and Verstappen actually as well. So myself and Stroll fighting for P2. Perez choosing to stay out on lap 18. Remember, like I said, we were coming in on lap 20, so provisionally by lap 20 we may be in the front at that point. So Stroll in P2, we're within 3/10 for P3. Piastri all the way back up into P4 from this race. Still has a lap to go after that. Lap 18 now. Stroll is still just over a half second ahead. And Perez, the gap has increased to 6.2. But Stroll comes in for their final pit stop. And that means we're going to be taking the lead because Perez was in the pits as well. And by the time lap 20 comes around, you can see Verstappen was 1.2 seconds behind and gaining. You can see the immense pace from Verstappen as we come into the pits for a set of soft tires, looking to make up positions from where we come out. It is projected we come out maybe P15, P16, but you can never trust those projected pit strategy positions as you come in out. But you can see we're dropping positions as everybody's coming down the main straight. Back down to P8, there you hear Tsunoda coming by, Stroll coming by as well. You can see the cars coming up. Back down to P11, P12. We're going to come out behind Albon and Ricciardo side by side with Russell. So we were ahead of Russell towards the beginning of the race, and we're back in P12. So basically where we ended up after the safety car is where we are back to. So we have a lot of fighting to get ahead of us, to get over with ahead of us, as it's lap 21 and you can see we're still trying to settle the soft tires in. Lap 22, you see the gap between myself and Russell. Russell's trying to close in behind us as we're on these soft tires. And these other drivers may have better grip and better pace, but we have the softer tires. All the other drivers around me are driving hard tires, and that's going to be an opportunity for Russell to make a move. Russell makes a move on the inside on those hard tires, has better speed than I do. We're going to both be on DRS on the activation line, forcing Russell to take a little bit too much curb that they wanted. You saw this little snap there of these soft tires, 2 laps old, and these were actually qualifying tires, so we already had about 2 or 3 laps in them. So that's why you're already seeing snapping. As coming around the corner, and that's Ricciardo taking a lot of curb. Gives us the advantage to get right up behind him. That's going to be 3 wide coming out of turn 3 up into turn 4. We're going to have the inside, Ricciardo on the other side, or Ricciardo stuck in the middle. That's Albon on the outside. Russell looking to make a move, but not quite. We managed to get out of there with no damage, no contact, I believe, as we're coming back up in a P9. So that's a double overtake on Albon and Ricciardo, as we're about halfway through lap 23. So feeling really good about that. The team's gonna really like that, and it's just a matter of getting Gasly up here in the points as well, as we're nearing the end of the race. I know there's a lot of gap between myself and Stroll. It's just over 4 seconds, and then we have to worry about Albon and Ricciardo behind us, but it looks like they're still fighting. So we're going to go to the commentators for the race.
The season opener has been thrilling, and we are now less than 10 laps away from crowning the first winner of the 2024 season. As expected, it appears likely to be a Red Bull 1-2 finish on the podium, with Hamilton and Sainz vying for 3rd place.
This race clearly demonstrates Red Bull's sustained pace compared to last year, with Verstappen nearly 16 seconds ahead of his teammate Perez, who is left to defend 2nd place. Perez is still holding his own against Hamilton, but will that be enough to give Red Bull the start they need for another dominant season?
Speaking of great starts, I'm observing several teams. Aston Martin has both of its drivers in the top 10, while VCarb's drivers are also in respectable positions, with Tsunoda in 7th and Ricciardo in 12th. Earlier, I mentioned Alpine's rookie driver, who is currently in 9th place. Just within the points, let's head down to Ted Kravitz, who was present during the rookie's pit stop.
From my vantage point during the late pit stop, it was clear that the rookie executed a very smooth stop, just as we observed in practice. The team is focusing on strong pit performance and strategic plays, allowing the rookie to showcase his skills on the track. He was immediately tested upon exiting the pits. finding himself in a three-way battle with Albon and Ricciardo. If the rookie continues to make such impressive moves this early in the season, it's likely that other teams will take notice.
I'm certain they will. In fact, we reached out to some of the teams during the safety car for a moment like this. We have Zach Brown here for a response regarding the earlier incident. What was Piastri experiencing at the time of the spin?
Piastri did what any driver has done, and it was, early in the race, and he, like anyone else, was attempting to navigate the corner. Perhaps he applied too much power on exit, but this is a common occurrence. And as the race unfolded, the team worked diligently to recover his position, which has now placed him back in contention. And the team has confidence that he can get back into the points before the end of the race.
Thank you, Zach, for giving us some feedback on the incident. We also have Alpine team principal Bruno Famin here. How has the race been for your rookie driver?
The race has been okay for him. The team knows what issues to expect with Johnson in the car, and we are confident that the team can help him overcome those hurdles as the season progresses.
Bruno makes it quick and easy as usual, and as we approach the end of the race, it appears there are only a few battles left to observe before the checkered flag is raised.
That's going to be a strong race finish for us. Lap 25 of 29. The gap between us and Stroll for P8 is 4.3 seconds. The gap behind us is Russell in P10 at 2.4 seconds. So we're basically in no man's land for the rest of this race practically. You can see the gap has increased to 5.4 between us and P8 of Sonoda. And the gap has started to slowly close in between us and Piastri, who made it back to P10 for our first race of the season.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
It's always great to kick off the season with a race victory. You hit the ground running, and it's really good for your confidence as well moving forward. It's so important to set off on the right footing, and that's exactly what they've been able to achieve today.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode, season premiere of F1 here on F124 after a long F2 season, as we use this first episode to preview Venturi Studios Showcase mod for a season up, so your season 2 mod pack. Make sure to keep an eye out for that on the Venturi Studios Discord as well as overtake.gg. And we will see you guys in the next episode for Jeddah.